I did some freelance work, and in 2001 I started a small interactive agency called Adverters, and we became the biggest on the market. We were sold in 2008 to the Ogilvy Group, which helped us to find and create integrated campaigns, and that's something that we always were looking to be able to do. I still don't do anything like a normal human being, and definitely not according to my wife or my mother. My wife and my mother. This next slide I put up for a reason. One is, in my industry, in the digital industry, I hear a lot of presentations, I read a lot of papers, I talk to a lot of people, and they say that digital is different, digital is different, digital is different. And yeah, digital is different, but it's on an executional level. It's not, digital advertising and marketing exists for the same reason marketing and advertising has existed since the beginning. Clients have a problem, clients need a solution. We need to find a way to solve those problems. Now this quote up here basically says that, when television first came out, there were a lot of naysayers. This is just when television came out, but it became the end-all and be-all of our advertising approaches for more than 50 years. And it's relevant because, at least in my industry, we're still dealing with hearing that internet is a secondary issue. It's not. Or digital, to be more specific, or to be broader, is no longer something that's new and a fad, and it's part of our media mix. Sorry, I just lost myself. But again, like I said, this was written when TV was in its infancy, and I just want to point out that advertising, that internet and digital is no longer in its infancy, and we need to recognize that. The next picture I want to put up on the wall is it's an interactive question. This is Bill Bernbach. He was the co-founder of DDB. Does anybody know what this guy did? This is a man that I have massive respect for. But does anybody here really? Nobody here knows what Bernbach did? He changed the industry, but does anybody know how? Alright, I'll tell you. In the late 50s and the early 60s, advertising was developed in a way that it hadn't been, ever. And what Bernbach did is he thought the idea of putting two heads together on a project, or two creative heads on a problem, that he would get a better solution. And he was right. And that was the birth of the copywriter art director team. And this is a model that's over 50 years old, and it worked for the time. And during that time, DDB came up with some of the most iconic and relevant advertising. And at the time, he was considered a bit crazy. He was crazy for what he wanted to do. People were talking about him on Madison Avenue as a loose cannon, as something that would never work. It's never going to go anywhere. But guess what? 50 years later, we're still using his model. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit more in this presentation. With Bernbach, back then, and I know that I'm being, I know that this isn't done in detail, I'm being very basic about this. He really had only 4 channels. He had the television, he had the radio, he had outdoor, and he had print. And at that time, it was easy for two people to come up with an idea that could spread through each one of these channels, because they're not very difficult to understand in terms of how you're reaching the person, what message to put there, and it could be handled by a smaller team of people. What's happened now, however, is that we have more than just these 4 ways of getting an advertising or even content across. And I think I'm missing a slide. No, I'm not. And this is just a short video of something that gives an idea of what the new media world looks like. Do we have sound? There's no sound. Hello? No?
I mean, to me, that video said a lot of things. It kind of shows how the way people consume and use media has changed. It's more of a two-way conversation, or even a multiple person to multiple person conversation. Instead of being a push, it's collaborative. We have so many different ways to communicate with people. There was data in there about how long it took for the major networks in the U.S. And I do realize that's a very American-centric video that was up there, but at the same time, that has nothing to do with the proliferation of technology. Technology will proliferate, and the audience consumes media on their own terms, and they express themselves in a different way. It's no longer a phone call. It's no longer no longer a phone call, a typed letter, a fax, or a face-to-face communication or a seminar. Is we can create and spread messages extremely fast. And there were a couple good examples there, especially with what happened in Iran 2 years ago. That Twitter and social media made a huge impact on what was going on. And at the same time, all television, all radio, all traditional media types of broadcast were outlawed and weren't being used. So, basically, in a very simplistic way of showing you the difference between yesterday's media landscape and today's media landscape. And I'm going to get to the point of why I'm showing this, is that, I've already said it once, but with the four on the left, I don't want to say it's easy because it's never been easy. I do come from an ATL background. I know how those media work, but when you come into this side over here, and this is mostly based on social networks, is that I've been working in digital media for 10 years, and I can promise you that I don't know how to use every single one of these things over here. It requires specializations. One of the problems that I see now, or at least in my experience, it's like I said at the beginning of this presentation, this is not about me dictating to you what is right and what's wrong. I've learned in my experience, anybody who tells you in the digital sphere what is going to happen, don't listen to them. They have no idea what they're talking about. This is about conversation, this is about trial and error, this is about risk, this is about figuring out how to do things. And one of the things that I had issue with in this world is that the stuff on the left, this was stuff that you could plan and buy media for long before you had an idea what your campaign was going to be, what your product was, what your whatever was. You just knew you had the space and you could get the reach. Whereas nowadays, you have to adapt your message for every single one of those things that you see up there, and that's just a sample of what's possible and what's out there. Even though I know I'm talking to an international audience, just to give it some Czech relevance, these are just two of the biggest social networks or social platforms in the Czech Republic. And the Czech Republic is 10 million people strong. There's 6.6 million people using the Czech internet, and basically half of them are active Facebook users. What's ironic when I speak to clients, or when we speak to clients and we mention Facebook to them, not only do we get it's a fad thing, but we also get the oh, it's only young people who are using it. It's only young people who are doing it, and that's not who we're trying to attract. But the fact of the matter is that 50% of the people who are using Facebook are over 20 years old. YouTube, on the other hand, is another phenomenon. And it's not the best chart in the world, but just take me, just believe me that per capita, the Czech Republic uses more YouTube than almost any country in the world. I want to go back to the original statement that I made, which is problems in our industry are still the same. We still have problems. We still have briefs. The briefs tell you, this is the issue we have. We need to launch well. We need to increase brand awareness. We're in it for sales. We're this, that, and the other. But you know, it's very easy. It's a very easy model to say, okay, so we're going to use TV, we're going to use radio, we're going to use outdoor, and that's going to solve our problems. But that's not true. It can solve part of your problems in terms of reach. It can solve part of your problems in terms of a broad statement. But when when you think about how consumers use media nowadays, of course, people watch a lot of TV, there's no problem with that. But a lot of people are texting, a lot of people are using mobile internet, people are constantly on their PCs. There are people I know, including myself, if I'm watching a TV show, I'll use House MD for example. I'll sit there and I'll have my notebook on my lap, and I'll either be chatting or typing an email or working or whatever. And as soon as the commercial break comes on, my head has gone down to the computer, and I'm not even paying attention to the 3 to 5 block spot, 3 to 5 block advertising time that's in front of me. So we, as marketers, we have to be as media neutral in our thinking in terms of creation as our consumers are in their consuming. The next one is a joke that my Czech colleagues told me nobody would get, but I am American, and we used to have this expression, what would Jesus do? And I'm going back to Bill Bernbach because I mentioned him before. And Bill Bernbach lived in a period where the media landscape was changing. So I think that no matter what, he just happened to live when he lived, and the situation was the way it was, and he did something revolutionary. So my question to that is, what would he do? My experience in the past 10 years has been, this is the way we deal with the creative process. You have a strategy director, a creative director who brief an art director and a copywriter who output. And I realize that I'm being basic on this, is TV, radio, print, and outdoor. And this is the basis of what the messaging is going to be. Everything is going to be derived from that, and then it gets derived down to digital me and everything else. And that doesn't seem to make sense, because how many people out here who've seen a TV spot, whether it was for Budweiser or Ford, or it doesn't matter what the brand is, has everybody noticed that the adaptations online, for the most part, not always, for the most part, are basically a copy and paste of those 4 things that you see out there? Does anybody? Anyone? I got a hand there. I got a hand there. I got a hand there. These are all my friends. Come on, people I don't know. So anyway, in my opinion, I think the type of thinking that was going on in Mr. Bernbach's brain was something a little bit different, so I don't think that this would be his approach. And this here is just another video that I liked a lot. I have to admit there's some things I don't agree with in it, but the overall concept I like.
All right, let's talk a little bit about victors and spoils. First, what are we? Well, that's pretty easy. We are an advertising agency. Just like any old advertising agency, really. So if you know what an ad agency is and how they work and what they do, then you pretty much know what we are and what we do. Except, we are different from other ad agencies in one major way. We are built on what we call crowdsourcing principles. Now, what the hell does that mean, that we're built on crowdsourcing principles? Good question. The answer is, it still means we're an ad agency. So we've got an account director and a strategy director and a creative director or two, and some C-levels and even a couple dogs hanging out here in an actual office, just like any ad agency. But our creative department is another story. And this is where we use the principles of crowdsourcing. So our writers and our art directors and our strategists and designers and producers, they all exist in a digital database. And we call this our crowd. Now we can tap into this crowd to work on projects as needed. So yeah, in that way, we're a little different. But the key is that to our clients, we feel very familiar. So just like any good ad agency, we first identify the business problem that's got to be solved. Then we collaborate on coming up with a creative brief, and our creatives get to work coming up with ideas to solve that brief. And our creative directors ensure the ideas are on brief and good. Then we present the ideas to our clients, and if they like something, we produce the work and launch it to the world. But instead of only having a limited talent pool of internal creatives for each brief, we literally have thousands of talented people on hand to attack each client's problem as needed. They're digitally connected and managed in our growing digital platform. So these are creatives who are matched to the right brief, and they're paid for the work they do, and the client owns all of that work. Or they're paid only for the ideas that a client buys. But again, the bottom line, we are an ad agency. Only we're one that utilizes technology in abundance to make great work for brands without raping the living bejesus out of them in the process in the cost department. So that's basically it. Now, if you're a creative, we'd like you to join us. We think there's a lot for you to gain by doing so, and we'd like to show you what it's about. If you're a client, we'd like you to please try us. We think you'll love the experience and the work. And if you're a hater, well, we get it, but we'd like to ask that you just please trust us. Because seriously, we exist to change the industry, for clients and for creatives, for the better. Like we said from day one, we're figuring it out as we go, but we sure like how it's shaping up. Thanks a lot for your time.
So what I liked about that when I saw it was the idea. It gave me the thought that there's more collaboration through more disciplines than what we traditionally see or what I've traditionally experienced. My philosophy is that everyone who works in an agency either has and then marked it out, and that it should have the capacity for creative thought, because everybody's creative. And especially in my agency, we're almost 50 people strong, and I believe in that some of the best campaigns and projects that we ever did was a collaborative effort from multiple different disciplines. And it didn't go in this linear brief to this person, brief to this person, brief to this person, output of something, and then we make derivatives based on that. And God knows in my life I've had to work with TV spots and print ads that just don't translate through other media. It's my personal belief, and again, I told you this is about my opinion and this is about my intuition, and it's about a process. Because I don't necessarily think I'm right. I just feel that every time I've worked in this way, it's worked well. In my mind, the role of creative director is a dead role. I don't understand why I'm a creative director. I don't know why my role as creative director exists. I think that this is something, and I also feel the same way about calling something a creative team, because if you're an agency, you're creative, and everybody in that agency is also creative. The thing is this kind of like pseudo model that I wrote is that I renamed the creative director the Idea Ninja, and to me that's a combination between a strategist and the creative director. It's somebody who can take a brief, look at it, recognize what the problems are, and because the clients have bigger problems than just, I need to reach through my TV, I need to do a billboard because of this, I need to do a print ad because of this, and let's do some direct mail. It's more, we need to get more customers, or we need to be more, socially responsible, or we need to communicate with them more. And this, to me, is more of a model of a creative team. You have multiple disciplines that you've probably never heard of that are up there. I'm sure you see copywriter and art director, but to me, these are actually executional tools. To me, when you have a brief, and the role of the Idea Ninja is to say, okay, I know who the right people are to work on this. And again, as I said, some of the most creative stuff I've ever seen come out of my agency came from a programmer, a Flash developer, or a media person. And that's something not to forget. Media people are unbelievably important. Because if we can change the model of how media is planned, bought, and deployed, and it can be part of the entire creative process, apart from us having to fill boxes that were already put there for us, it can really change the landscape of the things that we can do. The thing is that this kind of like pseudo matrix that I made, I don't even know what to call it, I just threw some stuff up there that made logical sense to me, is that you only need to use the tools you need for the particular job. And that doesn't mean that you have to use 16 people on a creative team. That's ludicrous. You have to pick and choose the people whose disciplines will actually help solve the brief. I think that even in the traditional world, this kind of works, but it's not as flexible. It's still a linear process, and you still come out with the four things that I've been talking about a bunch of times today. Is the TV spot being the king, print ad, and the other ATL media. The problem with that, which I also mentioned before, is that
when you have a push media or an interruptive media like TV, it's fine if you're going to write and try to engage on a way that people expect to be engaged. But when you're online, I mean, I can tell you, I'm in digital. I'm blind to banner ads, absolutely blind to them. But what I'm not blind to is a message board of something that I'm interested in reading about or hearing about. I'm not blind to a 3-minute video about a product that I want to see. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't have anything against ATL. What I have a problem with is that it's so focused on its own area that it's not thinking about the other ways to integrate. And again, so that's what I think. And that's the challenge, is who do you pick for the right job? That goes to my next slide, which looks a lot like a slide before, and it is exactly the same slide, but it just asks who do you need for doing something specific. Would you want a guy who's been writing TV spots for the past 15 years, coming up with a Facebook strategy, or coming up with a Facebook app, or developing a flash game that actually engages in part of just it, instead of just saying, here's my brand, you're going to love it. And I've seen examples throughout my entire life of campaigns that have failed because ATL thinking has just gone, say, oh, we've done this here, of course it's going to work there. And I know, I've seen plenty of TV spots and other executions that have gone on to be viral, have been PR hits that people have loved, but these are few and far between. And I think, few and far between, but I think that the brief that they got, if the client was expecting traditional output, that's what they got, but it could have been much deeper. Again, I've seen lots of briefs in my life where we could have done a heck of a lot more. The issue is that in my career, what I get is, here are the outputs, guys, what can you do with this on digital? And if it hasn't been thought through well at the core, with the right people coming up with the right ideas, then we're always going to have that. As a small example, I want to show you these guys. This year, my agency, we took part in the Czech version of the Young Lions competition. This is for Cannes Lions. First place, when you won first place, it meant you got to go to Cannes and it would be paid for and all that kind of stuff. The issue that I had with the application is that you could only put 2 people on a team. And everybody here knows that would be an art director and a copywriter. The cool thing about these guys is one's a coder and one's a Flash developer. We didn't win, but we came in second place, and I just want to show you what the winning thing was. I'm sorry if it doesn't look that good. And it has to be remembered, these guys had one day, they got the brief, they had to come up with the concept, and they had to execute. So it's not the most beautifully art-directed thing you've ever seen in the world. And the brief was for Seznam.cz, which is the Czech Republic's biggest server, about teaching internet security, or being safe on the internet to young people. And this is a banner where you see a little teddy bear, and it says, hi, Medvěděk means teddy bear. It says, hi, how's it going? Do you want to meet? And then the girl says, yeah, of course, Kachenka 12. And what happens is as they get to know each other, the fangs come out, the claws come out, and basically, and his name changes from teddy bear to like brutal bear. And it says, this is Seznam, get to know it, get to know internet security, be secure on the internet. And I just thought it was interesting because this is an absolute something that I don't think most people would ever think would happen. We had more young people we could put on it, but we wanted to be a little bit different. Let's give them 2 programmers and see what could happen. We came in second, so although we didn't win, I don't consider it a total loss. Based on everything that I've spoke about so far, I want to use a quote from Harry Truman. And if people don't know who he is, he was one of my presidents. He was after Franklin Delano Roosevelt died in 1945, he became president of the United States. And the idea is, or his statement was, it's amazing what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. And the model that I showed you is based on that. It's based on that everybody should be getting the credit. It's based on, it's not one or two people figuring out what the rest of the, what the output is going to be. And I think that's a good thing. And I put together a few case studies that aren't from us, they're global. And I wanted to show them to you simply because I think that they're very good examples of this type of thinking that I was presenting. But before I get there, is there anybody who wants to criticize me or ask questions or tell me I'm an idiot? I don't care. Go ahead. Why is everyone so quiet? Is it because it's earlier? Are you bored? I don't know. Okay, so then I'll just start these. I think, and I'm sorry, I think that a lot of people here are already gonna have seen a few of
Old
these
Spice
things.
practically invented body wash for men. But as the category has grown, the competition has heated up. With business slowing, Old Spice body wash was in need of a boost. With women making more than half of all body wash purchases, we decided to target men and their ladies for the very first time. How could we get couples to have a conversation about body wash? How can we get women to stop buying lady-scented products for their guys and choose Old Spice instead?
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell it. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
Launched online Super Bowl weekend and on television shortly thereafter, the man your man could smell like quickly became a phenomenon. Buzz was fueled with the media buy in targeted environments where couples would be watching together. In the first 3 months of 2010, the brand captured 75% of all conversations in the category, with over half of this buzz generated by women. Suddenly, everyone was talking about the man your man could smell like.
Yeah! Hello, ladies.
I'm Karan Butler. Look at your man. Now back at me.
Now back to your boy. Now back to me. Sadly, he's not as cute as me.
But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash,
I use Coribora. He can smell just like me.
Look down, back up. Where are you? You're on a boat.
If the boy or man could smell like.
What's in your hand? Now back at me.
It's an oyster. Open up. It's 2 tickets to that thing you love.
Look again. The laptop is now a celestial sandwich here in the snack zone.
Anything is possible when your sausage tastes like a sausage that's spicy and not a lady.
I'm on a horse.
Old Spice? I tell you, I love that commercial so much, I'm about to buy me some Old Spice.
Every man in the world wants to smell like our next guest. There are very few commercials that are that special that people really pay attention to.
On the heels of this overwhelming success, an encore performance was a no-brainer. But Old Spice wanted something more engaging. How could the man your man could smell like have a conversation with his fans on a more intimate, personal level?
You tell me.
And so the response campaign was born. In 2.5 days, a Wideman-Kennedy team of creatives, digital strategists, developers, and producers filmed 186 video responses to fans and celebrities, culled from questions on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and more. These real-time messages were then posted on YouTube, sparking a sensation that would become the fastest-growing and most popular interactive campaign in history.
On YouTube, 12755JDH commented, I love these commercials. And I love you. Monocle smile. And I've renamed my kingdom Elenopia. Presidential ad point. Please excuse me, I have another call. Oh, hello, dangerous prairie wolf. This voicemail is now diamonds.
On day 1, the campaign received 5.9 million YouTube views, more than Obama's victory speech after 24 hours. On day 2, Old Spice had 8 out of the top 11 most popular videos on the web. By day 3, the campaign eclipsed 20 million views. And 1 week post-launch, the work has been seen more than 40 million times. During this time, the brand's Twitter following increased 2,700%, Facebook fan interaction went up 800%. Traffic to OldSpice.com increased 300%, and Old Spice became the #1 all-time most viewed branded channel on YouTube. And in the 6 months since The Man Your Man Could Smell Like first appeared, the campaign has generated more than 1.4 billion impressions for the brand, and that's a lot. Without question, the campaign has had a dramatic impact on the bottom line. In the 6 months since launch, sales of Old Spice body wash has increased 27% from a year ago. In the last 3 months, sales are up 55%. And in the past month, sales are up 107%, cementing Old Spice as the #1 brand of body wash for men.
So what I like about that video, or what I like about that case study, is that it's very clear that it took a lot of disciplines, and it took a lot of open-mindedness to try to do that. The thought process was definitely beyond, okay, we have Old Spice, they're losing this, that, or the other. Let's do some direct mail. Let's do some couponing. Let's do some TVC. But even the TVC itself, there was the strategy behind it that we're going to integrate with the social media, and it just took off. And there's a reason it took off. It was engaging and it was relevant. Next one.
We built Shockbot together so that people from everywhere can spread messages of hope and cancer survival to the entire world at the Tour de France on the streets. It's a fully pneumatic robot. We're all friends working on the development of it, so it's literally friends working together, building a really cool thing that millions of people are going to be able to see and experience and interact with.
The way that people treat things changes a lot once it's physical. People will feel a lot more connected to the message that they send. So it's not just a throwaway text. It's not just a, yo, I'm sorry, right? It's, you know, now it's somewhere, right? Now it's something.
To print a message in sort of memoriam of a lost loved one, or in honor of someone fighting cancer, and see that appear on the road in the Tour de France that they could never participate in physically, that has the power to be very comforting, I would say.
As a software person, you're just constantly cranking out HTML, you're cranking out images, you know, you've got whatever. It's rare that you end up with something that's actually potentially really important to somebody. So it's like a really good feeling.
While the Nike Chalkbot follows the road to the Tour de France, you can follow the Nike Chalkbot at home on Twitter or at wearyellow.com.
And the thing I love about that is that the creative idea came from guys who have nothing to do with advertising in the first place. And they created huge PR buzz and did a hell of a lot more than any kind of traditional approach would have done. But it was embraced by the advertising community and the communications community. And before, when I was talking about this linear structure of briefing down to execution, that shouldn't have been such a blanket statement, because both of those last two things were done by Wheaton and Kennedy, I think, which was an agency that was always on top of its game, but then it started losing momentum because they weren't adapting to, let's say, the new media landscape. And then they finally did, and they're constantly cranking out new, cool, unique, and effective applications. And I guarantee you that their internal quote-unquote creative structure is not like those of most in our agencies. One more. Not that one.
I work 10 to 12 hours in my profession, and you get to spend time with your family and kids after that, and the first thing that goes is exercise.
I love the story. It's about a score that hasn't been settled in 15 years on the football field.
Roughly the seventh meeting between the State Liners of Phillipsburg and the Red Rovers of Eastern. 27-yard field goal attempt. It's blocked! The whistle has blown. This one is over. A sister kisser.
Time might be worse than the loss. We think we have a score to settle.
Gatorade has chosen to team up with the towns of Phillipsburg, New Jersey, and Easton.
We're inviting the guys from the 93 team to strap on the helmet and shoulder pads and replay that game to determine the true champion once and for all.
Finally tonight, old high school football rivals.
With the same guys who played 16 years ago?
This is one of the best moments. It will be the best moment in my life, other than when my daughter was born.
Replay is a game that Gatorade's doing to prove that once you're an athlete, you're always an athlete.
The original head coaches were invited back.
The original cheerleaders, some of the original band members are going to be there.
The returning players underwent a rigorous 2-month training regimen created by Gatorade Sports Science Institute.
I lost 57 pounds for this process. Wow.
Throughout the 8 weeks, the documentary content was cut into episodes and posted online, allowing the nation to follow their journey.
I said to Coach, we're going to kind of come out in sweats and warm up, and he said, no, we go full pads every day. And I'm like, Coach, we're in our 30s. I said, come on.
15 years away from the game, you're just not going to be able to get that kind of finesse in a day.
Drives are certainly showing concussion.
A lot of people out there saying you can't do it. Let's prove them wrong. 1, 2, 3.
10,000 tickets sold in 90 minutes.
Everybody was so down and so depressed. This is such a lift.
Gatorade athletes Peyton and Eli Mann joined as assistant coaches.
The field temperature right now is at 100 degrees.
In the most oppressive of conditions, there were no major injuries, no heat exhaustion, and no broken bones. Talk about the ultimate product demonstration. 160 million media impressions followed, including being named one of CNN's top stories of 2009 and a 6-page feature in Men's Health. After calls from nearly every major studio, a feature film is currently in development. And Replay is now a documentary television series. The 1-hour premiere aired nationally on Fox Sports Net to its 90 million subscribers in prime time on Sunday night Thanksgiving weekend. Gatorade's Lineup Finder allows former athletes to reconnect with teammates online and nominate their original high school teams for upcoming seasons of the show.
They looked at your age and they said, you can't do it. They didn't look at your heart. They got to look inside of you. Get your extra out and play the damn game.
No matter how old you are, 8 to 80, blind, cripple, or crazy, you're always an athlete.
Well, that's the end of the case studies. I think that the point that I'm trying to make is that those were amazing campaigns, and it's very clear that they weren't built from any kind of traditional structure. And to end this presentation to you is to say that, you know, creativity doesn't come from somebody who can write a line of text or put together a TV spot or a nice print ad. Creativity comes from the idea that's going to engage, and it has no matter where it comes from. It just needs to be adaptable through multiple and relevant channels. And all too often, as I said before, we're still using the same model, and I don't think that Bill Bernbach would agree with what we're doing right now. And again, I have to point out, it's not every agency who's doing it. I'm talking from my own experiences, and I've drawn up a concept of how I think that it can change. That's all I have to say to you today, and that's it. Thank you.